Sometimes it's just good to hear and get a hold of the heart of what's going on. I'm going to ask Travis Chamberlain to come up because he's a 2008 graduate. And so we're going to find out like what happens after graduation.
Awesome. Like he said, my name is Travis. I'm actually really a prodigy and a product of this church. I started coming here when I was 15 years old, and my mom drugged me to the first Colleyville Convention Center meeting that we had. We moved to the church in Carroll High School when we had our first meeting of Redline about 2 months after that, and I met Pastor Daniel then, and we went out for lunch and had a slice of key lime pie, and that's really where everything really started for me. Started working alongside him ever since, and still can't get away. When I was 16, I told Jenna that I would never preach or speak in front of anyone, and I hated it. But look where I am now, right? I graduated in 2006, and right around that time, I was looking around where colleges that I wanted to go to. I was playing soccer. I had a few opportunities to go play scholarship soccer at different colleges, and they were offering me a scholarship. But I knew I was called to be a pastor because in 2006, before I graduated, I went on a missions trip to Guatemala, and I had a life-changing encounter with God. In that encounter with God, God called me to be a youth pastor, called me to lead and mentor students inside and around me everywhere. And so when I was looking for colleges, I kept looking, and I was looking at different schools that were offering me scholarships and looking at pastoral colleges, but I could never find anything that I really wanted. But I kept coming back to HSM, and I ended up going to HSM, and I graduated in 2008. But while I was in HSM, I learned from some of the most amazing men of God. I learned how to start and keep a ministry going. I learned how to create and creatively speak and preach. I learned how to lead several missions trips to 3 different countries around the world, where lives were changed, people were saved and healed. One lady was healed of cancer when we went to Mexico. But I think the number one thing that I learned in HSM was to really capture and cultivate a passion and a desperation for more of God. And it's that passion that keeps me in the ministry, that keeps me going through life, that can keep me serving this church. And that's really the main reason why I came to HSM. See, when you come to HSM, you don't really receive a degree that is really recognized by anyone other than HSM and the Assemblies of God. But you do receive a passion and desperation for more of God. It is that passion and desperation that you find inside HSM and its students that truly fuel this church and its ministries. And we get that from our senior pastor. Heartland, I want to ask you a question that I've been asking myself, and I've been asking Redline, and I know HSM is constantly asking its students and itself, but what are you desperate for? We find a woman in Luke 40 through verse 47. She's a woman with the issue of blood. She had been bleeding out for 12 years, and she had nothing left. She'd spent everything that she had on doctors and people that said that they had a cure. So one day when she found out that Christ was coming into her town and that the crowds were pressing in all around him, it even says in the word that the crowds were pressing in so much that they were almost about to crush Jesus. But this woman got a desperation inside of her for her healing, and so it drove her to crawl on her hands and knees and touch the hem of God for her healing. And it says the moment she touched the hem of his garment, she received that healing. So much so that Jesus stops everyone in the entire crowd and says, "Who touched me?" His disciples then look at him and say, "Jesus, everyone is pressing in all around you. Everyone is touching you." But he says, "No, I received power that went out of me. Someone touched me intently." Knowing that this woman, knowing that she had been recognized by Jesus, got on her hands and knees before Jesus and said, "Jesus, it was me," and explained why she had touched him. And this is what he said, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." This woman, she gave everything that she had. She even risked her life on getting a touch from God because she was so desperate for a healing. This woman was desperately intent on touching Jesus for healing that she received, and she received it. Not only did she receive her healing, but she also received peace, and she was able to go away from Jesus, and he sent her away in peace. Heartland, I want to ask you, I want you to ask yourselves, what are you desperate for? You know, after having grown up here in this church and having been around our pastors for over the last 7 years, I know what our pastors are passionate and desperate for. They're desperate and passionate for souls. They're desperate to see the DFW won for Christ. They're desperate to see revival hit this church and hit this city and hit this nation and hit the world. They're desperate to see a generation being raised up that are going to be world changers, that will continue the fire that was put inside of them. And I know this because their message has never changed. And they started the school of ministry because of it. See, Heartland, if we're going to intentionally reach the DFW, we're going to have to desperately intently go after God. And then taking that intentionally touching those around us with the presence of God. Just like that woman with the issue of blood that she had for 12 years, she intently went after God. Heartland, we need to go after God in his presence with everything we've got, giving our lives for it. Can I tell you, HSM is a place to cultivate that passion and that desperation for God. It is a place to learn to reach out and touch those around you. It is a place to learn to win souls. And the school is doing just that. From the missions and evangelist track to the worship track to the youth track. It's because of your sons and your daughters and redliners that the school ministry has been able to, the interns have been able to come and support your students, and that we're seeing Bible clubs come from that. We're seeing groups being started in the Keller ISD, and over the last 2 weeks we've seen 10 people come to know Christ because of it. They're not only getting saved inside their schools, they're getting filled with the Holy Ghost inside the schools. The presence of God is coming down inside classrooms, and they're speaking in tongues inside the classroom. Kids that are instantly saved, they're getting filled. It's because of HSM students that are able to support your students. It's because of HSM students that we've been able to start a Revo in the HEB, and we've had kids coming from Trinity High School, from Colleyville High School, from some of the misplacement like Treetops, and we're seeing students saved. It's because of HSM students that, you know what, we've been able to start a group here in Irving in the McDonald's. And they're sitting down and eating McDonald's, and as students are coming in, they're inviting the students to sit with them, and they're sharing Christ with them. And over the last few weeks, they're meeting more and more students, and they're starting to come back week after week. It's because of HSM students that we've been able to start Revos, which are small groups, inside Flower Mound. And inside those Flower Mound groups, one of our girls, Hayden, has started Change for Change inside of her school. And after 2 weeks of starting it, she expanded to 2 schools. And right now, she's talking to 2 more schools already about getting involved with that. It is by the passion and the desperation that is found in HSM and its students for more of God that is helping and encouraging our students, our redliners, to do things that they would only have dreamed about. It is because of HSM that helps Redline do what we do every week, in and out of the schools and in and out of this church. It is because of HSM and its students that I was able to go to Bible school and not only learn theology and learn to be a pastor, but learn to have and to cultivate a passion and a desperation for more of God. Heartland, I want to ask you, what are you desperate for? What are you intently and desperately going after? What are you desperately asking God for?
Travis is a son of this house, and man, Heartland, he makes you look good. He makes you look good, and everything that's taken place inside of the Hurst, Euless, Bedford area, and at the same time here inside of Redline, we couldn't do what we do without Travis. I remember one time sitting inside of just a room, and we were talking about the Heartland School of Ministry, and somebody asked the question. They said, "What do we want to graduate? What type of student do we want?" And somebody said, "I'll tell you what we want. If we could graduate 100 more Travis Chamberlains." And then started naming off a few of the other students that we have there and saying, if we could do that, then we're doing really well. And wouldn't you agree? Come on. Thank you, Travis.